Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast, where we share games. I'm your host, Zack.
And I am your host, Tyler. Welcome back, folks.
Tyler, you're looking good today.
Oh, I'm looking pretty mediocre every day, so shut up.
Don't let him lie to you. He is the main attraction, except for this beer.
I would say the video games.
Maybe, but this beer also has a little creepy alien version of Little Prince on it.
You know what? You said the word also. What does that mean?
It means many things. Dig too deep and you might never come back out. So this is from Jester King. Probably the best brewery in Austin. It's the one that kind of the beer nerds get shipped out all the time. This is what Tyler likes to call their child beer.
It's 2.9. Children can drink that.
It's
Sunny D has more alcohol than this does.
That's not scientifically fact checked and yet true. But the but more importantly, children in Germany will drink Berliner Weiss with cut with water and simple syrup in it, pretty frequent, or maple syrup, I think, one of the two, I forget. But in it, and it's like the fair drink. It does have a little alcohol in there. So Europe's way cooler. Move there. But this is a really good beer. I've had it before. This is kind of their flagship basic beer. Like when you show up to Jester King and you're like, I don't really drink weird farmhouse beers, I go, okay, try this. And it has a little bit of that funk to it, but it's not going to be like, we left this out to bake in the sun with random insects floating in it or whatever flavors their beer. So
it's the insects. We're not going to get too crazy today. The other two that I have from Jester King were just from HEB. These are cans from HEB. I did go to Jester King about a week ago now, and I picked up a lot. I picked up only 3 bottles, but I spent $100.
Yeah, their special releases are incredible.
Ooh,
truly
this is a nice
incredible.
color. You know
what? I'll leave this here.
Yeah. I'm teasing about the 2.9, but if it's a nice, flavorful beer at 2.9, you just have that some iced tea on a Saturday morning or something.
Yeah, there's a difference between a lawn beer and just a good lighter beer. Yeah, it's really good. It's a very clean taste.
Very subtle. Yeah.
It's a lot of bitterness though. Again, this is going to be a good intro.
Really, I'm not getting much.
Right on the end. Let it sit. It is hopped. You can tell, probably dry hopped right at the end there, but it's very good. It's not complex. It has a clean taste, a lot like you would get in like a Hefeweizen or something like that. It's a good beer. But today,
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, me too. Today we are going to go through a couple games rapid fire that we've been playing.
Yes, we have had. This episode has been all over the place. Nothing has worked out. No plans have worked out in the past month, be it for the podcast or for life in general. So these are just 4 games that we have played almost together.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. The last 2, he tried one of them, but I spent so many hours on, and then finally the last one, he's really diving into.
Yeah. So let's get talking. I'll lead the discussion for this one. This is Clash, Artifact of Chaos. We kind of know it on the podcast as Xenoclash 3 in a lot of ways. It has it's from the same team, Ace. Ace, right?
Ace Team.
Ace Team. Okay, yeah. I don't know why I doubted myself so seriously there for a moment. Yeah, but it's
everything is riding on this.
Yeah, everything. My credibility. But this so Ace Team, they make weird games. That's kind of what they do. Rock of Ages, Eternal Cylinder, the Xenoclash games. Just real.
What is that? That almost Metroidvania where the woman gets dismembered.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right, we'll check it out.
Yeah, it's great. Sounds good.
There was also a Metroidvania they made in 2012 or something, in which the community. I might be butchering this a little bit, and I can't remember the name right now. Anyway, as the community beat the game, this is not a multiplayer game, but as more people beat the game got harder.
What?
Yeah, it's very strange.
That's very strange. I don't want to play it now because it's probably really hard.
Something like that. Some weird way to incorporate.
They like messing around with art and character models, and they are very unique developer. We like to try their games out. None of them. It's very rare that the game truly clicks with us, and it has. I've never quite gone. I wish I would have never touched that.
Yeah.
It's always been worth my time.
Yeah, Rock of Ages is just a good comedy game. It's a lot of fun. Very simple premise. We both liked Xenoclash 2 a lot.
I actually did, yeah.
Xenoclash 1 is super rough. I like the world they built and just how outlandish it is, but Xenoclash 1 is too rough to play.
And first-person brawlers just don't happen enough.
Yeah. Xenoclash 2 stepped it up immensely, and that's both in the mechanics and the art. Beer's getting me.
Oh, is it now?
Goodness
Telling
gracious.
you, when we blow up, when we have those 50 listeners, we'll have some merch that just has "This beer's getting to me" on it.
Dude, I don't know why I get gassy.
It's because you're so in love with the beer. Oh, that was not even. I knew exactly what you meant, so I guess it counts as words.
Anyhow, and then Eternal Cylinder. I played that in 2021. I only played about half of it, and you might have played a quarter of it. But for some reason, that game has stuck in my head. I think about it all the time. I look at it on the shelf regularly, either my shelf or Zack's shelf. There's just something so bizarre about that game, and it's sad. I've never taken the time to go back and finish it. It's so weird. And I like weird.
That's their whole thing. That's their whole thing.
Some of the weirdest, dude.
So this is. I'll leave the discussion on this one primarily because it's a brawling game. It's some people would probably call it a 3D brawler. I don't like that classification. It's a 3D action game. It's primarily focused around fist fighting, and it's really there's not much of a distinction in my opinion. Just this is a hack and slash, and this one's a 3D brawler. Why? One has a sword. Like, you see what I'm getting at? Like, yes, this should be noted that this is very focused on fist fighting, but the mechanics come down to a very similar place. This game is not very complex. There's a couple different moves and fighting styles you can go for. They all function a little bit differently. They're not enough to where you'd want to play the game again and try a different fighting style. It's pretty interchangeable. It doesn't quite reach the fun of Xenoclash 2, where I felt like even though it was very simple, the mechanics were fun enough to contend with the game as it was.
I remember Xenoclash 2 being smoother than this game.
It's quite a bit smoother.
This game's so rough around the edges.
It's the animations and the impact, the sound design, and we talked about this. The sound design for Ace Team has never quite been there. Even in their other games. Xenoclash 2 has some decent sound design, but it's definitely not the selling point. This game does feel a little bit lifeless. Like you're just kind of hitting a punching bag a lot of the time. Not like it's easy. Like there are some more difficult fights, but punching bag in that there's no feedback really for hitting it.
I think they cover that with their music, which is not even to say that the music is particularly great, but they use a suite of instruments that drowns everything else out. And if there is good sound design underneath, it's drowned by the music.
Yeah.
But it's not that good anyway.
Sure. And I had fun for what I played, but it's not a game I'm going to finish.
Neither of us finished it. He played much more than I did. I was not having a good time. I probably played 4 hours about.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't much further than that, honestly.
Oh, okay.
So it was enough to get a taste for the game. It's fairly long. It's around 20, 22 for a full playthrough. So there's probably a little bit more. The coolest mechanic that I liked is when you get into one of the more serious fights, you kind of have this game you play. It's almost like what you could imagine an earlier civilization playing. Just kind of.
It's a gambling game.
It's a gambling game. But if you were to look at it from the outside, you wouldn't know the rules intrinsically. It's just very, very physical. There's stakes and there's, you're rolling these die. And
they're stabbing the board to shake the dice into different positions.
Yeah, it's very visceral. That has some good feedback.
It's cool, but let's dig into the game a little more. What the hell is the crafting here for? It's so bad.
Oh my gosh.
And the economy for the resources is terrible. I only had 3 of those, the relics or whatever, the artifacts of chaos. I only had 3 of the artifacts, which you find in the open world in that first few hours I played. You can buy more, but you don't buy them with money. You trade them for crafting materials out in the world. And they're so expensive, and they get used. They're one-use items.
Yeah,
so when you play
use.
this gambling game, you're only allowed to use that item once.
Yeah.
And
there's
so
no guarantee
hard to get,
and there's no guarantee you'll win with that item.
Yeah.
Either. Like if you lose this gambling game, you have some sort of negative effect put on you, and the reverse is true if you win. Your enemy will have a negative effect put on them. I assume as the game gets late game, they become very significant to actually winning. I bet the enemies are scaled up in a way that requires you to have some pretty decent debuffs on them. But yeah, dude, the crafting, the whole economy, just kind of wandering around. The exploration is very bland. There's nothing there to keep you engaged.
I wouldn't mind the exploration so much because it feels like a PS2 game, dude, a late PS2 game,
which I'm usually fine with.
It's the exploration would be fine if the items weren't. You are almost pixel hunting. They're just like plastered on the textures of the world. They don't really stand out unless it's a flower. Sometimes a flower stands out.
And it's not really even that interesting of a pickup. It's not something that
they're sticks and bugs
valuable.
And frogs.
Yeah. Which is, fine. I get the aesthetic, but still it feels like a chore.
Yeah.
You don't want your collection to feel like a chore. A lot of people like to crap on kind of newer games making pickups a lot easier and crafting a lot easier. No, don't go back. I've been back. I don't want to go back. Maybe keep the difficulty and the starting with fewer resources. Resources are more valuable. That's fine. I don't like the trend of games making resources too easy, but you don't have to go back.
What I'd rather have are fewer resources. I find something and there's obviously
fewer higher value.
Yeah.
Multiple uses.
I want a choice.
Yeah.
I want to feel like by choosing this, I would probably need to play the game again or it's going to be a long time till I can try whatever that thing was. I think that would make it much better.
Yeah, and that's the heart of all good exploration, right? Is making the player feel agency and as though they're innovative, right? That's the great trick of Breath of the Wild, to make you feel with every tiny decision that you discovered something of your own intuition. That's it. And for players who engage with that kind of game, that's everything.
I'd like to push back might be too strong of a word because you're the expert here. All right, you play action games. I do not. However, you said that you don't like the classification of 3D brawler. Can you go over that one more time, please?
Sure. In terms of differentiating between a 3D brawler and a 3D hack and slash, I don't like that differentiation. Okay. Because at the bottom, the mechanics are fundamentally going to be the same.
I hear what you're saying.
However, I get it from an aesthetic standpoint. I do understand.
I think aesthetic is selling that a bit too short. I think there is something, the framing of what you're actually doing, pressing the buttons in this certain way, or these kind of upgrades or whatever that classify a mechanical genre of video games, framing it as just engaging in fisticuffs changes the entire dynamic.
It can, but it often doesn't.
I've played the 3 Xenoclash games. Those are the only first-person 3D brawlers I've tried, and then I've tried a handful of hack and slash games. And I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
But they feel so fundamentally different.
That might be true, but
they feel different. I understand you can boil down the mechanics.
So there are many games that get classified as 3D brawlers that. So for a great example, God Hand. God Hand is classified as a 3D brawler. There is very little differentiating God Hand from something like, outside of its core interesting thing that it's doing, from a game like Devil May Cry. The mechanics at the bottom, the invincibility frames, the spacing, the the ending lag, the startup lag, all the things you're thinking about when designing and balancing an action game.
But you're also thinking about it on, a 1v1 or 1v2 basis.
That's fair.
Just like in here, like three enemies is pushing it.
Yeah, that's fair. The same can be true of early Devil May Cry, but maybe a better comparison would be something like, what is that game where it's like the really heavy swordplay game? I can't remember the name.
Is it a medieval game?
Yeah.
Chivalry?
Chivalry? Yeah, Chivalry. Yeah, something like Chivalry. I don't see the difference there. I get what you're saying. It is often used in the action game community to differentiate games that really shouldn't be differentiated outside of, like you're saying, feel or aesthetic. Like they talked about as though they're designed differently, and I fundamentally disagree. Like the core design behind them is so similar. It's all just action.
Yeah, but the core you're talking about is so far down that it becomes one of the broadest things you could possibly say.
That might be true, but I think the second you start switching it over to calling it just a core action title, or like a whatever you want to call it, just action or whatever, character action, I don't care. Whatever you want to call it, right? I think once you get to that realm, there really isn't much outside of the kind of way the combat plays out, I guess, or the unique innovation or spin that particular game has.
It sounds like the breadth of that classification you could say there are only action games, RPG games, and sports games.
No, because you get games like God of War, Ragnarok, right? Like that's an action game, but it's also an adventure game, and it's also it also has some RPG to it, right? Like that's not a core action game. Like you get through that game with a lot of numbers, as well as the actual action combat itself. Like this game, it has some progression things to it, but they're primarily impacting the actual.
I would not say it's an RPG.
It's primarily that. I don't know. I don't see much of a distinction outside of presentation, but maybe presentation is important enough to draw a distinction for.
I would challenge that. I think it might be in some. I'm not saying, just like you have to make the classification between a military shooter and a sci-fi shooter. That's silly. That's just aesthetic. But you brought up chivalry. Chivalry feels more similar to this than they do to Devil May Cry.
Yeah, and Chivalry, because it has a sword, is called a hack and slash very often.
That's a little silly.
See, yeah, and I would call Chivalry, if we're going to draw that distinction, Chivalry would be on the brawler side. Heavy, one-on-one, one-on-two.
That's what I really think a brawler distinguishes a brawler.
Okay, I see where you're getting at. No, so the original 3D brawler is like the PS1 adaptations of the 2D side-scrolling beat-em-ups. Like a 3D beat-em-up is the heart of what a 3D brawler used to be. So that's what people are typically picturing when they talk about 3D brawler. And those games suck, by the way. They're really bad.
What games are we talking about?
I'm going to look that up, and when you start talking about something, I forgot their names because I have blocked them out of my brain.
Okay.
Think an early version of The Bouncer.
Okay.
Think something like that.
I see even something like God Hand. It's the deliberate nature of that 1-on-1 to 1v3, the framing of that.
God Hand ends up playing out a lot more like Devil May Cry. Just because of how...
I only played a little bit of it.
Just because of how crazy your moves get. Yeah. Right? They're starting to hit, 5 people at once easily. Like one kick. It gets wild. But I get what you're saying. It's the format of the encounter. That's presented.
That's a big deal to me. I would rather play something like this than Devil May Cry. I'm not very good at those games.
I love Devil May Cry.
Like this game in particular very much, but that
God
deliberate, slow, methodical combat, I think goes back to my appreciation for Prince of Persia 2008. That's the first time I really experienced that sort of combat, and I like to see it. I don't play many games like that, but I wouldn't call them quite
Fighting Force.
Fighting
Force on PS1. It is trash. I don't recognize any of these other ones. And
Heard.
None of them are...
Fighting Force.
Yeah, but that's going to be kind of the origin of that kind of idea of 3D brawler.
I see.
Anyway, yeah, we don't see a lot of games like this anymore. So it's cool that they made a game like that. I would like to see more things like Chivalry or this, or I guess a brawler, if we're going to call it that. I would like to see more games like that. There's enough to set them apart, They
call Chivalry a hack and slash?
Because it has a sword, dude. I'm telling you, it's a dumb action game.
It's bordering on simulation.
Action game division of labeling is a nightmare. It's someone, like, where everybody's like, oh, it's just video game genre, it's loose, like, we don't need to... No. Someone needs to come in and tell people what is allowed to be called what, and just remove some of these terms.
Like Metroidvania.
Like, you do, just throw them out, have some guy, like a real pencil pusher. Like, not like a super video game nerd, like an accountant. Some guy just come in and organize and structure all of this. And every 5 years, he'll come in and restructure genre. And again, it's not because we need to have these definitive lines. No, it's for the consumer. It is for the consumer. So that you can go, I want to play a hack and slash game, but instead of one guy thinking of God of War and one guy thinking of Chivalry, right? You have these games are hack and slash games. And you can put 5 little,
Dude, what lowly dreg is calling that hack and slash? That's bonkers to me. Don't.
Yeah, it's wild. I also think we need some help with the word character action. And some people think they shouldn't even be a genre. Like, there's one guy online who argued, Gaming Brit Show, who's great, but he argues that God of War 2018 shouldn't be distinguished genre-wise from something like Devil May Cry. He's saying it should just be called an action game that's not as good as Devil May Cry. Like, and I'm like, I don't know, like, it's doing something very different. Should its action be forgiven for not being as good as another action game? No, like,
that depends on what kind of action game you're calling. You're saying that it is.
No, I don't think it matters. I think, is this action in the context of the game successful consistently?
Yeah.
And I would argue yes. And it doesn't need to have the depth of something like DMC5. That's not what it's going for. But it doesn't sacrifice the depth for just being brain dead either. Like,
no, wait, it sounded like at the beginning you were saying that it should be tested against basically Devil May Cry.
Yes, but not in the way that maybe Gaming Brit Show would want it tested. He would.
Because it wouldn't be fair to test Chivalry, to hold it to the standard.
Well, it's not about fairness, right? It's about God of War is not a game. Like, it is okay to have an action system that doesn't have the miles and miles of depth of a game like DMC5. It is okay to make a game that's not like that, and that does not inherently make that action system worse. It must be weighed based on what you want out of an action system. Not even what the person's trying to deliver. That's too objective. What do you as the player want out of an action system? And what I want when I play God of War is enough depth to feel a little bit innovative and a little bit experimental. I think that it only falters when you're up against difficult bosses, some of these post-game bosses, when you start to see, okay, I have these 4 best tools and I'm going to reuse them in the same combination every time to beat this boss. That's when the cracks start to show. But when you're just fighting general enemies on medium or hard difficulty, and you're just like freezing one dude running over and, throwing the spear and being cool, and like, that's awesome. There's enough for you to experiment and vary up your combo and look cool. And so I think that's a successful action system.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't think that we should, not be willing to compare them as games. One is just an action game and one is an action adventure RPG. But we can talk about the action system as what an action system does. Calling something an action game, like you were saying, is as fundamental as calling it an RPG or a puzzle game. Like, what it's testing in the player is so fundamentally different between those two massively broad categories. And I think you can talk about Chivalry and God of War and Devil May Cry in the same breath as action games because they approach it so differently. How do we test the active reaction of the player in this situation? And can they master this active input from the other side? There's a little bit of action game design in Tetris, right? Because it's not just a static puzzle. Like, there's stuff happening. Your active response to something. It requires some sort of reflexes. I don't know. You know, when you get that broad, I think that you can stack that stuff up. You just can't compare. Depth alone seems to be a lot of people's criteria for a good action system. I don't think that's everything.
Okay.
I could talk about this a lot.
Yeah. It's not my wheelhouse. I just wanted to bring that up.
No, that's fair.
I think it's fair to distinguish between this and DMC.
That's right. Again, if we can get some pencil pusher to come in and draw the lines, I will humbly submit all of my opinions to Pencil Pusher Man because I don't want to argue about this anymore. It gets brought up so often. My action essay that I've been writing, it's not even an essay, it's like a mini book now. Like, it's so long, but I had to have time spent on this genre thing because I know that whenever I publish it or whenever I video or whatever format it comes out, somebody's going to talk about it and bring it up, and it's going to be a problem. I can't avoid it.
Problem now.
It's just always a problem. Like, genre needs to stop being a problem.
Let's break open this next one. That was Little Prince and Clash. Right? Clash.
Beautiful.
Go ahead. What do we got?
We got Queen's Order, which is one I have not had.
Yeah, I've not had either of these next two.
Okay, and Queen's Order Farmhouse Ale brewed with honey and lemon peel.
Seems pretty simple.
Yep, this is a 4.8 percent, so a little bit bigger. Ooh.
And we decided on a whim to play Dredge. You just suck it up right there.
I will.
Don't do it. Yeah, on a whim, we decided to play Dredge. I watched a couple videos on it. Not really in-depth reviews. I just saw a couple people mentioned it, skipped ahead, and saw how positive they were talking about it, and figured I think that's for me. Turns out it was already on Zack's list, so we added it to this sort of mismatched episode. Dredge. You already talked about the beer. That's right. It was Dink It Bro.
Dink
It Bro.
I don't see a nappy con. I'll just avoid that spot. Do not brush that onto my lap.
Why not?
That's okay.
Right onto your little lap.
Yeah. This is a PG podcast, folks.
Yes, it is. Dredge.
I have a very small lap.
I know.
Let's take a lap around this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you introduce it, dude.
Wait, what? No. He's sacrificed it to the pencil pusher. So I really like Dredge. I think it's great. I haven't finished it yet.
What's Dredge?
It's a game.
Yes, and that's what we're here to talk about, games.
Yeah, so it's a game that you can purchase for.
Listen, folks, Dredge.
It's okay. Don't you read the back of the box? So okay.
Kidding. No, really though. I'll talk.
Okay. You can introduce. Go ahead.
Yes, Dredge is a video game that was released.
Okay, you play as a fisherman who is recently hired.
Dude.
You're recently hired for this small, remote coastal village, little islands kind of dispersed across this world. And you crash into the rocks at night. You're kind of entranced by this lighthouse, and you crash into the rocks.
Like these genres clashed. It's a little bit like Wind Waker, really, like sailing. Once the ocean gets a little more open, sailing feels like Wind Waker. The map, it's got the grid system with the it's a grid system. To navigate, figure out where you want to go, and mark things on. What are you doing?
Pull your mic back up. You're probably pretty quiet.
Hey, man. And then it's got some like visual novel stuff going on. Not dating sim, but visual novel stuff. It's just when you interact with an item. And I'm actually going to mention this exact thing later. It's really been pulling me into games lately. There's this it's written like a choose your own adventure. When you might not have choices, though you often do have some choice in, any of your interactions here. But when you interact with an item, instead of you just doing a thing, there's always text and images that pop up on the screen saying that, you put your hand on the cold slate and, a shiver runs into your very brain or something. I don't write well. I don't say words pretty. They do, though. And so you've got this sort of visual novel, choose your own adventure situation, this Wind Waker sort of thing, and then just a bunch of fishing mini games.
Yeah.
Just a handful of different ways to fish and
improving the efficiency of your fishing
and your boat, which is very, very slow. And then all the fish you get and all the pieces for your boat are just, that Capcom game that I love. I don't know if you love this Capcom game, but the inventory system in Resident Evil 4 is a separate Capcom game.
Listen, he's going to make fun of me a lot. I have only recently realized that my whole life is just drowned in the love of Capcom. Yeah. Like, I just kind of woke up to that very recently and go, oh, most of my favorite games are pretty much Capcom games. Like, they're great.
Mm-hmm. And the best games coming out right now are pretty consistently Capcom games.
Yeah, they
are just killing
Battle
it,
Network
dude.
Legacy Collection, Street Fighter 6, Resident Evil 4 Remake. There are a lot of rumors Monster Hunter 6 is going to be next year. They are
Hunter World
killing
playing right now, or we're playing. We're going to talk about.
I played else. Rise, yeah. I played World, yeah.
Anyway, I like the inventory system in Resident Evil 4. Is it in the remake? Did they keep that?
Of course.
Oh, good.
How could they not?
Oh, good. Well, they could just be degenerate losers, but we know that's not true.
So far, so good.
Yeah. Anyway, it's that, putting everything in your ship and then having things on your, in your cargo it's just that, you're putting all these Tetramino pieces into slots. You've got to, wrap this squid sort of around your engine to be able to fit it into your boat while your boat's breaking down as you go to sell that squid. It's just a bunch of this all wrapped up in this eerily inviting Lovecraft story.
Yeah.
It's very...
It's Lovecraft Light.
Yeah.
It's Lovecraft Light.
Yeah. The theme is very obviously Lovecraft inspired. They don't go into great depths, at least yet.
But
neither of us have finished this game yet. We are both very close to the end, right at the same spot, actually.
But the environments are great and like really well done, and they evoke that sense of depth and otherworldliness very well. Mm-hmm. All while you're just trying to make a living, just get some fishing done, explore this mystery.
I don't even know if that's what I'm doing anymore. Yeah. Trying to make a living.
Yeah.
I went back to the main town, and the lighthouse keeper. If you have some time between your visits to
it kind of makes you go back to the town. It doesn't really, but the only person who takes trinkets, like valuables, is in that area. Mm-hmm. Is on the opposite side. But yeah, in that general area. So you might as well swing by and sell the fish you have on the way there.
Yep.
So you're probably going to swing back by the town.
Yeah, you're never made to, but you're pretty well encouraged to go back. And when you do, if you've spent enough time away, which usually I spend like 10 or so days away from there before I visit again.
Yeah.
I think I'm on day 70 right now.
I'm right around there. I think, like 58.
The lighthouse keeper meets you at the dock. At least the past like 4 times I've been.
Yeah, same.
She meets you at the dock. And the last time I met, she asked what you're doing. And one of the options was, I don't know anymore. And that's kind of... that feeling starts to set in pretty quick, and it's not because you like see these visual changes on your character. It feels like what you're doing, though it's fun as a video game. If you're role playing a little bit, it does start to feel like I've just become a cog in whatever this dark machine is.
And it's great because there are these eldritch horrors in the swimming through the different major areas, and you just kind of have to leave. You don't fix anything. Like
you don't fix anything.
Like you're not here to like save the world. Like, because again, that's not Lovecraft would never write a story like that. Mm-hmm. You're just kind of here, There's nothing you can do.
You just exist in spite of these things.
The cliffs will be eaten by that giant serpent, and that's it.
It's good. I've been very surprised by it. I love the presentation.
You know what I would call it?
Dark action game.
No. I mean, it has some action elements.
Character action, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I would call it Darkwood Light. In terms of the emotion that it evokes. That sense of, what am I even doing anymore? That going from just kind of scraping by and scared of the horrors to just like, yeah, they'll be here, and I'm just kind of I'm just fishing around them now, and that's it. I don't know, like that sense of just kind of settling in, but way less, obviously, than that moment in Darkwood where you just kind of realize, oh, like I belong here now.
Eat mushroom granny.
Yeah, nothing quite like
that moment in Darkwood. No, there are many moments in Darkwood that pull you in and make sure you can never leave again. None of them hit me quite like.
I still haven't left.
Eat mushroom granny.
I refuse to get the quote-unquote true ending. It's not the true ending.
Yeah, we talked about it. We talked about it a lot. I went back to listen to that episode recently. It's a good game, dude.
Yeah, it's a good episode.
Yeah, 2 episods because we didn't know what we were signing up for.
Yeah,
and decided to split it.
I'm glad we actually finished it.
Yes, definitely. Dredge. All right. That was a very just like mashed together group of sentences. It's a little hard to describe. It's got a lot of little pieces that make up this whole, and it's a pretty unique whole. I can't really point to something else to recommend. You know, if you like this, I think you'll like Dredge. I
think most people will like Dredge.
Yeah.
If you could customize your boat, I'd tell Keely to play Dredge.
I suppose so.
My
if you could play boat dress up, I would play Dredge more.
My sister-in-law has gotten into many games outside of her initial comfort zone just because there was some sort of aesthetic dress up, like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Loot or, you know, whatever. Just, can I make my character look cool kind of thing. And I think she'd like a game like this. She's likes stuff like Animal Crossing. She likes stuff that has kind of, you know, continuous improvement, getting, you know, what's that game? Stardew Valley, you know, continue building the efficiency.
Yeah, it's the I don't know if she likes, I don't think she likes horror or really.
No, but this
spooky.
it's not true. It's not horror.
It's definitely not, but it would be hard to say that to someone looking from the outside.
If you could customize your boat, she would play it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, probably. I mean, this is seriously like, I'd recommend it to most people looking for a quick pickup game.
Oh, yeah, and it is quick. It's about 8 hours. We're right on the tail end there. Big surprise this year. I know I'm going to talk about it later, assuming we have those sort of discussions. I've had a great time with it. Big surprise. And I think we've got some more surprises coming up soon. Not so much in this episode, but there's some, you know, while we wait for freaking Silk Song, there's all these other little indie games coming out that are going to be pretty good surprises. Yep. Clash was not one, or it was, but for unfortunate reasons. Dredge, though, I think you should go play it. It's super cheap. I don't know what the digital price is. I know the physical is $30. At $30, I think that's a pretty good ask. You know, 8 hours, that's on the low end. You can put a lot more time into it. And it's it's pretty one of a kind. I would definitely recommend it, especially if you like the theme. If the theme is enough to pull you in anyway, it permeates everything that's going on in the game. So it's a big recommendation from us.
Yes.
Dredge has been a good time, will be a good time. I'm glad you decided to play it with me.
Yeah, the Edition Deluxe.
That's right. Does that come with the DLC?
Yeah.
What is the DLC?
I don't know.
Huh. All right, Zach, you've been on a quest.
Quest to hunt some monsters.
I'm gonna look at that DLC.
I love that the video, all the the fun little videos compiling like why should you play game X or whatever, and usually it's a comedy sketch or YouTube or something. All the best ones or Monster Hunter are like, this is called Monster Hunter. It's a game where you hunt monsters. Like
exactly that.
it's pretty much it. I, as part of my revelation for, oh my gosh, I love everything Capcom does, is Amanda, my wife, and I have been jumping into Monster Hunter Rise. We picked it up very recently. We'd played through all of Worlds, started Iceborne, backed off for a little while, decided to come back to it. I wanted to play Iceborne with her, but more of our friends had Rise, so we picked up Rise and playing it on PC and just re-loving everything that the new Monster Hunter is. I'm also playing Freedom Unite on my PS Vita. And I'm picking up all the Monster Hunter games now because they're just super fun.
Yeah, you've already got 4 on the DS, right?
4 on the DS, 3 on Wii U,
this?
3 Ultimate on Wii U, 4 Ultimate 3DS. I picked up Generations Ultimate on Switch, and I got the Iceborne the deluxe edition. So
now you said Generations Ultimate is the last of the original format, right?
That's the last of the old school version of Monster Hunter where you're not being dispatched to larger areas and then coming back to base and then dispatched to a separate large area. The whole map is interconnected, and you have to go down. You actually have to look for the monster. If it gets away and it's not paintballed, you won't know where it went. There's a lot more prep involved.
Is it going to randomly show up if you haven't paintballed it? Is there a way to track it properly?
Yeah, if you can keep up with it. Some of them fly, though, is the problem, right? So they might fly down a path that you can't walk. If they can only walk, then you just follow them, right, as they run away.
So when it leaves, because I know, especially in 3, this is the only one other than World that I've played, and I didn't play much. But I know those areas are so small. So let's say an area has 3 exits. Zone 4 goes to zone 2, 7, and 3. Okay, if it leaves down the path to go to zone 3, it indeed going to be in zone 3? It is
going to be in zone 3.
Okay. And then if you wait too long, is it going to be in a different zone?
Yes, it will probably keep running, and who knows where it went.
Okay. All right.
It follows the rules.
It's just, it's an old video game. I mean,
so sometimes they don't. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It would definitely not be out of the norm
this
for
is
it
just
to just
me
randomly spawn in a different place.
So the only old Monster Hunter I've played is Freedom Unite. Okay. I haven't played the other ones, but based on that, which is 2 for anybody not on the in, Freedom Unite is 2 with all of the updates, all the master quests, everything on it. So it plays like an old game. You start with almost nothing. You have to truly be prepared. If you forget to eat, you're probably gonna die. Like it's you might need to go on a quest just to grind to get the hot drinks you need to survive on top of the mountain or something. It's a prep game, which has its benefits. If you were to combine because basically you can gather at a gathering point and you get one thing, and then you have to gather again. You get a second thing, you gather again, get a third thing. So up to 10 times sometimes. So if you were to just get all the stuff on one gather and then keep moving on, I probably would be a little bit less put off. But everything else is great. Obviously, it's much simpler, much less of the action mechanics that World really brought to the... That's not fair. That really started to get refined in 3 onward, but Generations Ultimate really took the big turn towards action design, and then World just took it to the next level. The best examples, like Greatsword, you get a shoulder tackle move that you can do at the middle of any of your Greatsword charges that you'll still take negated damage, but it will shoulder through and you won't get knocked back by the monster's attack, and you can continue charging at the level of charge you were at. So much more like action game design stuff coming in. So that's obviously, I love that stuff. I'd like to see the series go find a healthy balance to where prep is really important and you have to be very cautious, but it's sped up, it's efficient. You don't have to gather a million times.
It sounds like that might be Generations Ultimate.
I don't know. I haven't played it. I don't know
I'm going to pick it up. I am most interested in the old way of Monster Hunter, not necessarily old Monster Hunter games.
Yeah,
it sounds interesting. I just don't think I would have fun playing like Freedom Unite. I think I'd have a really hard time with that.
Pretty old.
If I can get the best of everything that they used to offer in Generations, I think I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah. And the one big warning everybody gives of that game is the quest structure is disgusting. Look up a guide, like, for what you're supposed to do, because it is so overwhelming. It's this giant festival of all things Monster Hunter, essentially. It's not really meant to be a mainline entry game.
Which I mentioned this before. I'm not looking to get into Monster Hunter. I'm looking to have one great Monster Hunter experience. So if I can just play until I'm done, I think I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting to play it from beginning to end. So if I just dive in, I think being overwhelmed, I'll avoid being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because I'm not trying to have that complete experience.
Sure.
Just trying to have a very good experience.
So I get what you're saying. I'm excited to play it as well. I'll probably enjoy it quite a bit because I'm enjoying Freedom Unite a lot. I do miss more of the action elements that are going to come later. It's still very simple. Most weapons have 1 or 2 combos. You know, it's very simplified versus, I mean, you look at the simplest item, the simplest weapon, the sword and shield. Simplest weapon in Monster Hunter. And even that in Rise has like just so many different moves you can do with varying ways to implement them. And lots of mobility.
Can you fuse an explosive barrel to the shield?
No.
Trash game.
But that's what I need.
0 out of 0 would not.
0 out of 0. What a good score.
Mm-hmm.
It's max score.
Yeah.
But
it's not even allowed to be considered, is what I'm saying. If you can't fuse a barrel to it.
Understood. I think my favorite thing about Monster Hunter is the combat, and the monster design is consistently incredible in every game. They have so much life. You know, hitting different parts isn't just about doing the most damage. Sometimes you're hitting the area that takes the weakest damage because if you break that part, there's an 80% chance of dropping the item that you want. You know, so different strategies and different like ways of dealing with the monster are encouraged.
I might get a guide for Generations anyway, because when games involve that many spreadsheets, I just like having the spreadsheet.
Rise is really nice. When you fought the monster once, you can click over in your hunter notes and it'll show you the drop rates by % for every item you've found. Nice. Dude, it's just, that's quality of life that you need right there. You already know they're going to go do it. So just give it to them. So yeah, I love that aspect. Rise increases the mobility a lot, which is super fun. You have these wire bugs, so you can literally fly across the map.
That came from World, right?
No, they had this kind of grappler thing that could be used in certain situations in World. This is like truly freeform. You can initiate them whenever, wherever. It's much more freeform. And everything's sped up. You have a mount now, so you can ride very fast where you need to go. You have all of the wire bugs also have 2 new moves per weapon. Every weapon gets 2 additional moves that involves wire bugs, which are cooldown costs. All very good and useful. Some of them can be changed with the new switch skills, where a certain aspect of your weapon's moveset can be swapped to operate completely differently. It's just huge. There's so much going on. And
I bet I could get the fullest Monster Hunter experience. I mean, aside from just diving into the whole series, which, you know, I don't typically do. If I play Generations Ultimate and Rise. Mm-hmm. Seems like that'll tell me everything I need to know about
literally,
Monster
Hunter. Yeah. Literally everything. You don't need to play the super old ones. You can see where it came from in Generations.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen it in the periphery enough to know.
Yeah,
I've played a little bit of 3, though. I'm still actually genuinely interested.
3's the one I'm most interested in playing. Actually, my brother played it a lot growing up. I like the aesthetic a lot. It's where
that's one of the biggest things for me.
It's where the series really started to flex its action muscles as well. It's not gonna quite hit where it'll show up in 4 and Generations.
This cover's so cool, dude.
The cover's so cool.
We just before the cast we looked at almost all of the previous Monster Hunter covers. This is one of the best. Now, World is very good for a few particular reasons. It's very modern. However, the best covers, like actually Rise on Switch, it's the scale. You've got the hero in the bottom corner or centered on the bottom, and this massive monster.
Yeah.
This, however, is not like that. It is, you are obviously wearing that dragon's face, and cool guys don't look at dragons whose faces you're currently wearing.
It's
so cool, awesome. Dude. It tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. And that's, again, the life of these monsters, the way World added where they'll interact with each other a lot. You know, they have turf wars, and some of them will just show up randomly. In the
now, does all of that carry over to Rice?
There's still turf wars. They did scale down how often certain monsters will randomly invade and start attacking whatever other monster is there.
It is on Switch, so I would imagine some scale back.
I think that was a good decision. It got a little bit egregious where it's like, this is interrupting my hunt way too much. Like,
oh, okay.
I think they went a little bit too far. Now, if two monsters show up, you can mount a monster. This was introduced in past games. But this one, you mount it and can control it for a little bit, and you can use it to hit the other monster, and it's the best way to knock parts loose on the monster, so you can pick them up later. But the second that you finish that, the monster that is not the one you're hunting will run away. I'm like, okay, like, make the player throw a dung ball at it to get it to run, or something. Like, you know, it takes away the life a little bit when you do something like that. That's a small complaint, but
I have very limited experience with Monster Hunter, but I did play the first few areas of World. That jungle area is such a masterful first area.
Yeah, it's
just
very
an
good.
introduction to the game. It keeps unfolding more and more areas,
and it like loops in on itself, and it's very vertical.
Dude, it's a good level.
Rise takes huge advantage of the verticality offered. That's the main addition it brings to the series, is verticality in a way that we haven't really seen before. So I'm really enjoying it. Again, the new monsters are great. My favorite is Tetranodon. He's precious.
Is that the platypus?
He's like
turtle?
A platypus turtle bear, basically. And he's either very fast and lean, or he can like eat up all this water and become this huge chunky sumo wrestler dude who has like huge AoE attacks. He's precious. I love him. But Magnamalo, the kind of the one on the cover, very well designed. He's like Radon, honestly. From
I like all the colors. I like that he's so colorful.
Oh, and he lights up purple. Like purple flames coming off his tail. He looks so cool. But he shoots around like a little meteor. He complements the game's new mobility options really well. Forces you to use them. I think the best design of the new monster is called the Gosharag. He's this upright pig yeti that can breathe ice swords onto his arms. He's very cool. Very well designed fight. I could talk about it all day, but basically all that to say, like, I'm really starting to appreciate Monster Hunter, both old and new, for what it has to bring to the table, both as an action game and just as a unique hunting, exploration, foraging, kind of economy game. There's a lot going on, and I'm glad that I am playing them.
Awesome. You know what you're not glad you played?
No, I'm not glad that you have not had played. Tell me.
Chug that, bro.
I'm not going to chug this.
Chug it, bro. We've got one more beer and one more game to talk about. This one, also from Jester King, is Land Dive. I've not tried this one. This is also a dry hopped farmhouse ale. It's got honey, grapefruit, and lime. Brewed and canned by Jester King in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a big selling point. I told you I've been nervously eating my fingers.
Yes, your whole fingers, it's not good.
They don't work anymore.
Gloves are probably cheaper for you now.
Yeah.
That's Internet Historian just dropped story mode for Outlast, that horror game.
Oh yeah?
That's very funny.
I gotta watch his.
He's like, oh, that's nice of him. He made gloves cheaper for you. Like, cause he cut off 2 of his fingers. It's good stuff. Do you want me to finish drinking this?
Yeah. There you go,
there
bro.
You go. This Tyler's getting to me.
There you go.
Thank you.
Land Dive. You want a little more?
No, I'm good.
All right, I thought so.
We make the clinking sound with our mouths.
We don't have to because it's glass.
Shh. No, we have to do it with our mouths. Clink.
I did it with the glass.
It smells good. So anyway.
All right, so we last left off with Zack being very glad that he's been playing Monster Hunter.
For about as many hours as you've been playing this, actually.
Yes. Zack absolutely hates No Man's Sky.
I'm not a fan.
Hates it. I have 55 or so hours into it. On this playthrough, I played it for 60 hours on launch, and I genuinely have no clue how or why I did that. Now, however, 7 years post-launch.
7 years?
Yeah. 2016.
What?
2016. Yeah.
What? That's the year I got married.
Wow. I actually didn't know you'd been married that long. I thought it was a little less.
Well, did I get married in 2016?
Who knows?
I think I did. Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
Anyway, 2016 is when No Man's Sky came out. We're playing it here in 2023. The math works out to almost 7 years. No Man's Sky. What don't you like about it, Zach?
You're gonna make me talk about this? I don't want to be that guy. It's just.
I'll pick it back up.
Yeah, I know you will. Okay. I realize that for many people who've reviewed and talked about this game, that if you're able to get past the hump of
it's 20, a big one. It is
like
a big
some
one.
people put it at 20 hours. The game really opens up. There's a lot going on. You feel invested in what's going on, and you have the tools to really do what you need to do. I spent the first 8 hours of this game just not quite having enough resources, having to just go and aimlessly mine for things that I needed. I found the anomaly, and that was good. But then I just saw a bunch of other trees that I would have to go mine for and get resources for and explore planets that all I was going to do is look around and dig things and mine things and grab that stuff. Their space combat was nothing for me at that point. Obviously, I didn't have anything, so I just would shoot things and it'd be over. Mine some rocks in space. Oh, ran out of fuel again. Oh, crap, I don't have that thing. Time to go mine.
I hear you.
Oh, my gosh. It was so rough for me. And I just wasn't getting into the flow of the game. So I built a cool base on a cool planet, and then I quit.
I didn't quit. So yeah, like I said, I'm about 55 hours into it. I think the only reason I genuinely wonder, I don't know, because I don't really have, I'm not able to have the benefit of hindsight here, but the past month and a half have been so rough, and I've fallen into a bit of depression. Much better now, but this has been such a great escape for me. It was exactly what I needed, exactly when I needed it, and I dove fully in. I also had a bit of expectation that you didn't have because I played it on launch. I knew that the fundamental core of the game was unchanged. It had just, finally met all of its promises and more. So everything Zack said is true. I can only agree with those things. However, I was able to connect with it. And one of the things that helped me connect with it most was the narrative. There's a few different quest lines you can go down. There's 3, I think, one of which requires you to go like halfway down the other. But roughly 3 quest lines, and one of which features it's called the Atlas. If you don't know anything about No Man's Sky, it's called the Atlas in all of their promotional material. It's that sort of diamond thing with that beating spherical heart in the middle of it. That's the Atlas. What the Atlas is what was very interesting to me. And then discovering the history of the aliens, though it's a very cartoony game, all of its violence and just the whole thing is like cartoony and very lively and childish. I'm okay with that. But what is written is just like Dredge to me. It's that choose your own adventure style of writing. You place your hand on the terminal and electricity shoots into your fingers and you offer back the life that it just tried to give to you, or something like these things that almost make no sense, but then are very well connected again to create this painterly set of words. All of it is presented like that. It zooms in on a still image of whatever piece of technology you're interacting with, or the glyphs that share the history of the various alien races. Zooms in on a still image and then gives you this sort of storybook, choose your own adventure book sort of text. And I've just been really drawn to that. I bet if I read a choose your own adventure book like those classic Steve Jackson books when I was young, I'd love them.
You put your hand on the console and it tells you to go mine some more carbon.
That's right.
No, that's not fair.
The carbon is very abundant. It's the oxygen that gets really hard.
It's because it's only in those little. You have to like scan for it.
Mm-hmm. Or I found that the all the poisonous plants, or the ones that snap at you, those have a lot as well. So always be killing those things.
ABKTT. Always be killing those things.
Oh yeah. And then spending so long in the game, pursuing those things, which I'm going to talk about the Atlas a little more in a moment, because that was really, really cool. But spending so long, searching after those things just naturally allowed me to accumulate what was needed to sort of rise above the challenges of resource collection. When all of that becomes trivial, you've got things that are doing it for you, collecting passive income, or just, you've got 999 sodium, so you never have to think about it again. Because anytime you start to use it, you're just naturally acquiring more, and you never think about it. I have like 7 ships now, 8 maybe, and you can have 12. I have a full rack of multi-tools, just because I've been collecting cool ones. You can only have 8 of those, so I have to choose very carefully which ones I want to keep, just based on aesthetics. They're cool. It's like collecting cards for me. The ships, I have this whole fleet of the Sojourner line of ships. I've got the Sojourner B, the Sojourner Rock, the Sojourner Fox. Just these, I'm like building these own little stories, like I'm this Star-Lord guy. It's just fun. It's genuine role-playing for me. Not something like a Final Fantasy or The Witcher. This is me just making my own, what's that called? The sort of immersive narrative is wrong. There's a term emergent? I'm looking. Emergent narrative. It's just my own stuff. I go through a black hole and, oh my goodness, I'm in the middle of a firefight. And then I help this fleet with the pirates, and the captain, asks me on board, and he just literally gives me the fleet. Like, oh yeah, cool. I don't want to do this anymore. Here you go. Bye. And now I've got this S-class freighter and its fleet. It's just worked out. It's all good stuff. If you don't like the sort of, I don't want to talk too much about the core. You know what No Man's Sky is. You know what these kind of games are, really. You're listening to video game podcasts. This is such a pervasive genre. No Man's Sky probably doesn't do it best. No Man's Sky is very inviting, though. It's no Conan or Ark. Those are very intimidating. There's
Yeah, for your hard drive.
Sure.
Ark is
what is that,
huge.
like 120 or something? No, it's aren't one of them approaching like 400 gigabytes with all of them?
I don't know, but Ark is 128 because I had downloaded it.
That's the base game. I think there's a bunch of DLC.
Oh yeah. There's a bunch I didn't download. That's just Ark.
Yeah, that's insane, dude. That's illogical.
Correct.
The amount of space that uses requires. Oh, and then base building. You can find a settlement and defend it, and then the people will invite you in as their leader, and you start building up this base, which gets you a bunch of passive income, and you can start to build. And it's also a way, instead of building your own base, like putting in floors and doors and stuff, you're just building out this thing that is sort of built for you. It's all, each race has its own different visual style of settlement, and then you just start expanding the settlement without having to do all the base buildy sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've had a great time. This is not my sort of genre. Actually, the reason we played this is because we were going to do a joint episode with this and Subnautica. Two games that we've been interested in, Subnautica being the one that Zack is particularly interested in. And this I've always wanted to revisit. I stopped playing it on launch, and I've seen it grow. So it being a genre that we're not really well versed in, just picking two that we liked. And that episode didn't work out. I told him he should put this down because we weren't really going to do a full episode on it, and then I couldn't put it down. So I'm not gonna sit here and try to say that it's the best or recommend it to huge fans of the genre. If you're a fan of these kind of games, you know it already, and you either will or will not play it. If you are not a fan of the genre, I mentioned I don't really have the benefit of hindsight. I think it just hit me at the right time, and it is going to be talked about on my Game of the Year list. But I still don't know.
That's wild.
Yeah, dude, I have loved the whole thing.
What is my... You know what? While you're talking, I'm
I genuinely don't know if I could remove myself enough to see if people would actually like this game. Which is weird to say. I should just be able to recommend it based on that experience. But like, not everyone is going through a small bout of depression and needs a very particular kind of escape. But it hit me in that way. And it is going down as one of my favorites this year so far. Right up there with Dragon Ball Fusions. I talked about that a while ago. It's been a good time. But I wanted to talk about Atlas just a little bit. Let me take a sip of this beer, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's going to win my Game of the Year because I played DMC5 this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but...
That's one of your favorite games now, right?
Yeah, it's my top 10. I also played Bayonetta.
Yeah.
Resi 4. The Mega Man X games have not been doing it for me as much as I want them to.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, Nier Automata.
Don't talk about it. Don't even talk about it.
I'm just kidding. But Atlas... So I mentioned that I got last time we spoke about that particular quest line, and spoilers for the Atlas story. I'd gotten to the point where the character, me, didn't really have a choice to not interact with the Atlas anymore, and maybe you can sort of sympathize with this. Yes, technically everyone always has a choice. But some things get to the point to where you become so curious, you would be like fundamentally betraying yourself if you didn't allow the curiosity to go just a little further.
It's kind of like with Dredge, like, why am I helping this creepy guy do this Lovecraftian stuff?
Anymore.
I'm like, it's just like, sure. Like, why
I've
not?
submitted my entire life
yeah,
to
I
this
could
now.
not do this and just fish. But why? I guess I'll just do this.
So the character was sort of at that point there. The way it was written, and again, I do think the writing in here, the presentation is weird. It doesn't really gel with the actual writing, but the writing I think is quite good in this game. And the character got to a point where couldn't really say no anymore. I could technically select no, but the writing indicated that was not an option for the spirit of this character anymore. And you became a harbinger for this sort of like biblical flood of knowledge, though. Not specifically of data. Not that everyone in the universe would know more, but that the universe may know itself, may finally know itself. And I don't really know what that means or even what the ending is trying to say specifically. But that's where you and I last spoke. I was becoming a harbinger for to usher in an era that the universe know itself. And what you end up doing, you go through a few more interactions with Atlas, and finally you end up at the point where you can choose to create another solar system, to create a new solar system. And then that's it. The Atlas leaves you. So the act of creation, this is sort of, it seems to be what it's saying. The act of creation is also the full realization of yourself. And the character became a stand-in for the entirety of creation. You just started to amass so much knowledge about creation. You became creation and created. It's very interesting to me. Unfortunately, the presentation is silly. You don't do anything with that. You see this, like, it zooms out and you see this short little cutscene of, I guess, a solar system being created. And then you don't do anything with that. You just fly out of the station and continue playing the game. And I don't know if another solar system was actually created. That's something it never tells you. It's not a place that you can... I mean, maybe you can go to it, because I don't know if it was physically created. It's just you now have the knowledge that something was created. I don't know if that's for the narrative, or if every time a player finishes this quest line, a new solar system is being created. Which I'd like to believe that's what's happening. Anyhow, now I'm just traveling to the center, which I never did in the first playthrough. I didn't do this in the first playthrough either. But now I'm just following black holes to the center of creation and finding really cool alien spaceships along the way.
Very nice.
Sorry you hated it. Sorry I subjected you to that 8 or 9 hours that you played and then was finally like, oh, you can quit if you don't like it. We're not going to talk about it very much. Sorry.
It was the fastest I've dropped a game. That's not true. That's not true at all.
What is?
It's a great question. No, I'll have to think about it. Yeah, we can. I'll bring it up next time if I remember.
You dropped this faster than you dropped the Zapper on the GameCube.
That's fast. I dropped my panties for you, though, buddy.
Ah, thank you. Folks, we know it's been an odd episode. It's been an odd year so far. There's a lot to talk about outside of this podcast, a lot that's been going on with us. And we've just sort of been just playing stuff as...
It's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it
nice.
has been nice. It's not been super scheduled. Even though No Man's Sky was on the schedule, Clash was on the schedule, it doesn't feel like we're...
And we need no schedule for what is going to happen very soon.
Yes. You know, all of this has sort of just been
Life
anticipating...
will halt for Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes, it will.
I have that day off.
I will probably have that day off.
I told my boss, I'm like, hey, I'm going to take a holiday. He's like, great, what's happening? I said, Tears of the Kingdom is coming out. He's like, nerd. I was like, you're an IT manager.
The kids might be coming on Friday, so I'll be taking a couple weeks off anyway. And while they do schoolwork at the kitchen table, I'm going to be playing Tears of the Kingdom.
That's what's up.
Yeah, that's right. It's been a good time. We're glad we're able to just play these random things. You're playing with your wife a lot more, so that's nice.
Yep, it's nice. She is upgrading her PC right now, so looking forward to that. She's wants to play more games on PC with me. I said, as long as every other game is Monster Hunter, I don't care.
Upgrading the graphics card?
Yes. Yeah, everything else is pretty much just no more than a year old now at this point. So she has a great processor, great motherboard, really good RAM. Everything's there. It's just a matter of... She has M2, which I don't even have.
What's
her.
M2?
That's like the form factor for...
that plugs directly into the motherboard?
Yeah, like the little thin
instead of SATA.
SSD. Yeah. So she has that. I don't even have that. So she's... she just needs a new graphics card. So we're probably going to drop for the 4070 Ti, I think. That's probably what we'll get.
Isn't that the current?
No, 4090 is the like
Okay.
That's the
how much is the current like? What's 4070?
4070 Ti I think is about 700, 800 right now.
Damn, bro.
It's a big boy.
That's for hers or yours?
It's for hers. That's her money.
Are you gonna get her? Is she gonna get a monitor first? Because she's running 1080p right now.
No, I realized this the other day. That monitor that she has down there is a 4K monitor.
Oh.
However, it is not an IPS display. So I was thinking of maybe taking hers for mine and then seeing if she wants to buy a 4K IPS instead. IPS? See, I'm doubting myself so much. It is IPS. Okay.
I don't know. It's been a while. I sort of,
Yeah, you're not PC gaming.
It's set it and forget it for a while.
Yeah, and that's what I've been. Mine is now reaching 7 years old for everything in it except the graphics card, which is 4 years old.
Yeah.
But no, I have hers now, so she's running my 2060.
Dude, you're running the 970?
I'm running the 970.
That's my 970 from 2013.
Yep, I'm running that.
Oh my goodness.
And yet Rise runs like a charm.
That's nice.
That's
nice.
So well optimized game, which is it's a few years old now, so I don't know how it ran at launch. But anyway, yes, I will definitely be taking my 2060 back when she's done with it. But
yeah.
I've been thinking about upgrading mine.
I've got somewhere around a 2060. I've got an AMD. I don't know what exactly it is, but like I ran one of the best looking games this year. What's it called? Atomic Heart. I ran that on a mixture of high to max settings
On 2K, right?
Mostly high on 2K.
Man, 2K is the way to game right now. You don't have to worry about how to run at 4K. It's gonna run great,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think any modern games, that's a modern game, but anything past that, it's gonna start to chug.
Yeah.
It's gonna be high, and then lower. A mixture of medium to high. Anyhow, it's been a good time. We've had a good time. Thanks for putting up with us. I know it's not been very structured the past few episodes. Next episode is not going to be either. We are, really just biding our time for Breath of the Wild
Kingdom.
Oh, heard. It's not actually. We talked about it. I saw a bunch of the footage. This is not Breath of the Wild 2. Oh my goodness, dude. So Tears of the Kingdom. Cannot wait for that.
Yep.
We'll see you soon with some more games, folks. Thanks for sticking around, and don't forget to share what you love with who you love.